Before I begin, I wanted to talk about the description I add to all of my videos. It's usually a list of mental health resources. I've recently seen these commercials featuring Megan Thee Stallion for an organization called Seize the Awkward, and I really love this idea. I've got people that I check in on pretty regularly, and there are people that check in on me pretty regularly, and keeping those conversations real has been super helpful to me at getting through all of this stuff that I've been dealing with. Please check out these resources. And honestly, feel free to suggest any new ones I should check out myself. Look, nobody cares what I think about AI. I mean, like everyone else, I'm doing my own research on AI. I have an idea I think is pretty workable, and there's a definite need for it. If I had to name a reason why I haven't taken it any further, I'd speculate I've got a fair amount of ADD along with all my other mental health stuff. As I learn more about autism and ADD and what effects, if any, they have on who I am, I'll admit owning the graveyard of partial ideas floating around on the different disk drives that are in my possession. Outside of the hype train, I like some of the direction AI is taking now. I understand the logic between large language models or LLMs, the models that are behind things like GPT and the models behind user centric things like Gemini and Copilot. But LLMs in and of themselves are really just a foundation. They're not functional in any way, and this is where large scale LLM leveraged across companies remains the thing that will literally freak me out about AI. Um, Apple recently made their big AI splash, and honestly, I like this development a lot. Yeah. I'm an avowed Apple fanboy and all, but Apple is going about AI the way I've been thinking about it. Individual language models with the guarantee of privacy. Hear me out here. Large language models are great for filtering information down. They are remarkable in how they parse patterns in language and word usage to create best case answers based on a corpus of information. The problem is they trained that model on the internet. And like I said before, that's got its limitations. But a model that not only learns things from me as I interact with it, but can be used to predict things that would benefit me, now you've got my attention. And the data privacy thing is an interesting angle, one that I like. Look, I don't need no one knowing things like my Waze traffic patterns or mobile browser usage or anything really. But if my device could hold a model solely about me and that model could adapt to me over time, holy shit, yeah, sign me up. Look, amongst my friends, I'm a notorious slow adopter. My friend Murph used to tell me about all these cool things that just always sounded like science fiction to me. And he was merciless on me on my slowness to get on Gmail. But at this one, yeah, I'm all in. Um, with Apple's data privacy announcement, they're focusing the AI on me, the individual, not me, the one small part of the human diaspora that makes up the internet. There's a danger in this type of individual AI also. If I am intentionally and willfully ignorant of something, will my AI adopt that as a personal preference? Or will we have a little bit of the rehash we had from some of that craziness a few years ago on AI? Yeah, probably that one. Still, I'm optimistic. But assuming these issues are worked out, the idea of my own trainable AI model is exactly what I'm basing my ideas on. If you've heard me go on a really good tear about computers anytime in the past 30 years, you've heard me mention the book Being Digital by Professor Nicholas Negroponte. Mr. Negroponte was the author of the back page of Wired for a considerable time and was the head of the MIT Media Lab. MIT is like my dream school, and I lapped up every word of that book. And the audiobook was narrated by Penn Jillette, who's probably going to get a podcast all on his own down the road. One of the notions Mr. Negroponte speaks about is the advent of so called digital assistants. Think about Siri, but on steroids. I've put a link to the initial press release for Apple Intelligence in the description, it really does look like Apple is starting out right. And right now, it's all along the lines of the kind of AI tricks we've seen from other AI models. I can conversationally do things like update my contacts or send a text to someone, and the AI takes care of it on my behalf. But as that AI learns more about me as an individual, it will adapt and then new features will start to present themselves. This is how we learn as humans. We do something, we make a mistake, and we learn from that mistake. And that's how AI engineers look at these problems. I'll be doing this a lot, but I'm going to revise my earlier ambivalence on AI. I'm really intrigued by the notion of an individual learning model and that my model is private only to me. It does seem to give Apple a lot to build meta AI models on, though. Like, Apple will not know my individual predilections, but it will surely know enough to form a general persona about me for Apple to use, right? There's always something in it for them, isn't there? And if this persona is used to form opinions about me, like things about my mental health or the work I do or the things I say on this podcast, how is that information secured? I don't want to get conspiratorial, but what if my persona flags me because I talk about software I pirated in the 80s and 90s? Again, there's no money in forming this kind of opinion about me, so I'm very skeptical it would happen. But I'll be paying attention and I'll report on the stuff I run across. I'm doing more things to tie these podcasts into my career in IT, so I'd love to hear any thoughts on this one. I apologize for sounding a little robotic. I'm trying to read this. It's kind of a new thing for me, so I apologize. One of the reasons I'm looking for feedback ties into something in episode 14. I don't have a college degree. Like I mentioned in the freestyle episode I did a little while ago, if I'm going to have any kind of renown within the IT industry, I got to do something. I don't have an impressive college pedigree. Not that I think that one matters one iota. I think a degree is like someone signing off that I'm capable of learning stuff and playing nicely with others. That's why people who have things like communications and biology degrees are my coworkers. No knock on those fields at all, but it has nothing to do with what those people do to pay the bills. It's kind of silly, really, when you think about it. And these people with these divergent degrees are super smart people. So their colleges all feel comfortable signing off on their education. I think spending 25 years at the same company, constantly growing both personally and professionally the entire time, that counts for a lot. I recognize my lack of a degree has damaged a lot of my career aspirations. I can't move around as easily as most folks because I don't have a degree. The times I have looked, I've had to be super judicious because of the whole degree thing. I'd say 95% of my professional network are people I've met at the one company I've worked at for so long. I'm an introverted nerd who doesn't network well and who frequently locks up in conversations. When I get the anxiety, the imposter syndrome that I feel, it's because even after doing this for 40 years, even after decades of watching ideas I had become realized by someone else, it's because of that fucking degree thing. Wait, what do I mean by that? Here's a quick example. I had the first idea for the first mobile website for the company I work for. I worked on the public facing internet site for a long part of my career. Web stuff is some of my favorite type of engineering. I was working with another engineer on some problem, and we just happened to notice some small trickle of web browser traffic in our logs. So I scripted out something just to kind of get an idea of what was going on. And we noticed a trend. Now, keep in mind that in terms of real numbers, these numbers are tiny, but it was a trend up. And that was what I felt like was so significant about it. So I felt like we could get a really super fast win if we had some kind of content that was friendly on a mobile device. I even had this demo that I set up that, in complete fairness, looked god awful. But it really sold the point I was making technically. We'd have the first mobile friendly website in our entire sector. Crickets. Now, how would college have helped me here? I think about this a lot, and I have some serious thoughts. As I mentioned before, I was told that 50% of my online college grade was for participation. I struggled desperately with a team that wouldn't listen to me, same as I struggle with management and other teammates today. And my grade would be dependent on the feedback I was getting from my classmates, meaning I had to kind of play nice. And I'm all for playing nice. I am. Seriously, if you know me, I honestly I am. Like I've said before, I've had this reputation as being a curmudgeon, but it was all misplaced. I would say I was less angry and more frustrated that I couldn't get my coworkers to see what would be just plainly and painfully obvious to me. And my inability to get my point across increased to the frustration, and it would, just like now, it the whole thing fell apart. I can't find the words, and I can't get my point across. The tagline for the Seize the Awkward ad campaign I mentioned a moment ago is being vulnerable makes us whole. Yes, all of that, please. And listen, I'm all about being awkward. I didn't refer to myself as being weird for nothing. I can be more secure about myself the more vulnerable I am. I am blunt. I may seem angry, but I'm usually not. I'm just loud and trying to focus on my words. I'm weird. I've been weird my whole life. I was one of those guys that wore those goofy t shirts as a way of drawing attention to himself. It was kind of my thing for a while. I've had a thing about how I look my entire life. It's not like I'm It's like I'm wearing the mask of someone who caused me pain, and I can't take that mask off. Not physical pain, but emotional and psychological pain for sure. And so, yeah, yesterday being Father's Day was a little tricky for me. Um, but I'm discovering that when I let people in, they like me because I'm weird. And I keep those people super close. And I'm using them and you to vet out new ideas. Like, I should tell the story behind the first episode I did, but it is way too early to jump the shark like that. Of course, there has to be a shark to jump, right? I don't know if I have a shark worthy audience size yet, but a boy can dream. I'm going to be sharing things like little goofy stories from my IT days in the trenches, dumb project ideas I had that I thought I'd be great, and some of the little tricks I use to kind of get through my day. If I can build an audience off of this and find a way to make super compelling content in a way that's conducive to my attention span, man, that's the dream. Thanks for listening. Take care.